Long story short, almost 2 months back, I ported my entire game to a new render pipeline. If you don't know what a render pipeline is, it's basically how a game engine displays everything onto the screen. Something told me that wasn't the only thing that needed an upgrade. I've been thinking about restructuring the entire codebase for a while, so recently I did. Unlike the last time around, almost everything had its own unique script attached to it, which, if you know anything about management, was a really bad idea. I'd have to go into individual game objects to tweak each script, even if they share the same behavior. This time, I decided to organize everything into derivatives of parent scripts. To save myself from future suffering, I've decided to suffer now. I laid on my blank papers and started categorizing everything into groups. I broke down each interaction to its core. I find spreadsheets in times like this work better than Trello boards. I can lay out exactly what features need what, then proceed to program the behavior based on it. Without much prior game dev knowledge, I try my best to learn the best practices of everything. Here's a little interaction demo that I've created to show some of the interactions found in the game. For this demo, I'm going off script so we can experience it together. Alright, here we are inside the interaction demo for Tower of Chambers. Let's begin. Right off the bat, we have a locked door, which requires a key that looks like something above the door. So as you can see here, the UI actually knows what type of object we're interacting with. If it's something interactable, we are given the change of cursor, or like the pointer that it's an interactable object. So let's go around and look for the key. So here we have another locked door that requires another key. So each of these doors have their own set of keys that unlocks them. So it's not just like a single trigger that unlocks all the doors. It's individual. Here we have trigger event. So trigger events are basically events that require a game object to fire. So in this case, we have a button that triggered the event of unlocking a door. So the button could trigger like an audio somewhere else, or like a gate to open, or fireworks, whatever, you name it. But as long as it's an event, the game object can trigger it externally. So if we click on the door, then click on the button, then the door should open. Inside we have trigger collider, which if you think of trigger event as something the game object triggers externally, then trigger collider would be something internally, which is triggering something on itself. So here we have the drawer being triggered to move back and forth by playing an animation, and of course the sound effects. Same with the panel here. What's cool about this drawer is that it's actually got its own collision detection system. So if I have something blocking the panel, it won't close, and it'll stop exactly where it hits the object. So if we move this back in, it'll close again. Same for the drawer. It's actually got a detection system where if you have something above it, it just won't close. It'll just budge a little, but it won't close. So if we tuck the object right inside, then we can close the drawer. Let's move on. Here we have another locked door, which we can open. Examine take. So examine take is, as the name suggests, we can examine the object and we can take it. So let's go inside and take a look at the key, and we can take the key. So as you can see, all of the interactions have its own unique icon. So for taking something, we have a chest, which symbolizes putting it into your inventory. And if you notice on the top left corner, we actually have a UI system that would update the set of keys you have, so you don't have to constantly check inside your inventory to know which key or important objects you have acquired. You can just look at the important icons and you'll know. So we're just gonna go here, come here and take all the keys with us so we can unlock the doors. So here we have a memory core which is specific to Tower of Chambers. A memory core is explained in previous videos, which was all before porting it into this new render pipeline, as well as remaking the whole script. So here we have pretty much the same thing. I remade the UI a little, which you show the text and you can take the object. And of course you can't rotate and examine the memory core yourself. Same for here, we're just gonna take it. So examine look is a little bit different from examine take. So examine look, as you can see it has an eye icon, which allows you to just look at the object and put it back to where you found it. And this is very standard for a puzzle game. So looks like we have the key this time. We can unlock the door. Here we have something called a drag grid, which requires no movement from the player. That would be basically just dragging the object without your character actually moving. So we can drag the object on a grid. Orange moves in X and Y, green moves in Y, and red moves in X. So here we have basically the green cannot move left and right, but it can move up and down. The orange can move any two axes, and the red can only move left and right. So these all have their own collision system. As for here, there is no wall, so it won't stop moving unless we put a wall here. Drag freeform. So drag freeform is moving anything that's out of the grid system. So here we are moving in three axes freeform. And it's pretty standard in a puzzle game where you can hold the object and throw it. I added another feature which allows you to basically bring the object closer or further away, which I believe it was also in Half-Life 2 or Half-Life, I forgot. But yeah, it's just another little small feature. What's different about this one is it's locked onto two axes. So instead of three, we are locked onto two. And we can only move within the grid. Cool. Let's continue. So drag grid track one axis. So what that means is basically, as you can see here, we have dragging the grid, which does not require any movement from the player. Here we actually need to hold down the button and start dragging by moving our character. So we have to move forward with the object to move. And we can't push it off away from the track because it's on the track. Here we have a two-axis version of it. This one I'm quite proud of because for me it was quite a complicated task to program, because what you have here is, I'll show you, you have a three-way system. So how do you get a player to continuously move the object but still allow them to move on a third direction? What I ended up doing was snapping the object to align itself onto the track. So here, let's just say the player won't get exactly on the track. So the game will help snap the object back before pulling the object in the direction they want. Which I find was quite difficult to do, but I'm very proud of to do. Maybe not for other people, but it was for me. Here we have drag rotation, which is, as the name suggests, we push the object to drag it in a rotation formation. So drag grid here is the standard dragging for a grid object. Here we can see that it moves in the two axes, and it only drags when the player moves along with the object. And they all have their own collision detection system. So it'll stop whenever it hits something, and it'll stop when the player does not cannot no longer move back. This one is a little bit different. So instead of forcing the player to hold down the movement button, we can simply just push it to interact with the object. So I'm not holding down the button. I'm just simply clicking on it and it'll move the object on its own. So these all work on the slope as well. What's different about this one is that the player is forced to only push the object by holding onto the handle. So you can imagine like something more specific, like maybe you want the player to hold a shopping cart or some sort where they have to push in a certain direction, or maybe like a wheelbarrow, some sort of object that requires a handle, specifically a handle to move the object. Same for the slope version, it also works at an angle. So let's continue. Here we have something called trigger rotate. So trigger rotate, as the name suggests, you have a trigger that triggers an object to rotate. So here we have a single rotation on a single axis. And here we have a 2-axis rotation, which in my opinion isn't as practical, but who knows, maybe we'll use it. Let's continue, and we are back where we started. Let's go through this door. We have the key, so it's unlocked. Here we have a trigger move freeform. So what that means is we have a trigger button that moves the object freely, as long as it doesn't hit a wall. So I'm trying to push the down button and it doesn't move. As long as it does not hit a obstacle, it will continue to move freely at the unit we have specified. Here we have a slower moving platform, which we have set to move in 2 directions, or not 2 directions, 2 axes. Here we have a 3-axis platform, which moves 2 times faster than the one before, or maybe more than 2 times. And we're just gonna parkour our way through. Here we have a trigger move freeform hold. So what that means is instead of just interacting with the button, we actually have to hold down the button to move the platform. This might be a bit more useful when it comes to, say, like objects that require really precise positioning from the player. And we are back. Let's go through the last door. So the last door we have a trigger move lock. So instead of freeform, we have a locked movement from A to B. So the object can only move from 2 positions, or how many positions we specify. So in this case, we have 2 positions. I can't move it back, so let's continue to move it forward. And we can just hop on here. So you can see how it might be useful if we have the controller on the platform. So we have trigger move interact, which is the exact same thing as locked. We're just calling it interact. And here we have moving the platform from A to B and on different axes. So as you can see here, it won't ever move out of the position we have set the object to move into. So you can imagine this to be like position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it will never move out of it because it's locked. Here we have a 3-axis, so X, Y, Z axis. Here we have a trigger move hold. So as the name suggests, it's not interact, it's holding the object to actually move it. So the player would need to hold the object to move it up or down. So we're just going to move the platform down so we can climb up and I believe go through the last obstacle. Yes, and we are back where we started. So that's about it for the interactions I have so far. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more updates of Tower of Chambers. Thanks for watching.